Hello everyone. So we have two systems that we need to go over in this video. One is for Sunday night into Monday, and the other one is for Wednesday night into Thursday. I apologize in advance if this camera is shaky. I'm going to try to hold it as steady as I can. So this is the American models representation. So what's going to happen Sunday night into Monday is this piece of energy. This is the 500 millibar map. This trough up here represents a colder air mass that's trying to work farther to the south and east. And you also have a warmer air mass, warmer and moist air mass over the Gulf that's going to be trying to come up north. Now, this isn't going to be a big storm, but what happens is when you have a cold front coming through, a cold air mass trying to get through, and warmer air trying to come up, the warmer air will go over the cold air mass, and that's called overrunning. So you get precipitation that way because the warm air is going to rise, and so you get what we call overrunning precipitation. So that's going to be the situation as this trough comes on through and delivers cold air, and this warmer air mass tries to make its way up the coast, and that'll be Sunday night into Monday. And some areas will get snow, some areas will get a mixed bag of wintry precip, and other areas will just get rain. Alright, so this is the basic setup. Alright, so by the way, this is Sunday evening. So here you already have some precipitation starting to develop across the central part of the country into the upper Midwest. This band of precip will continue to move to the east and the northeast throughout Sunday night and reach the East Coast by Monday morning and exit by Monday night. Now, there's really not a lot to show on the vorticity map because this is overrunning precipitation, and there's really the only real piece of energy to be that we're watching is this northern piece here, but it's really not too much of a thing that's going to be affected by the orientation of the trough or where the trough is going. This is simply, you know, an overrunning event. So I'm just going to go straight to my weather map and skip the technical talk. Okay. So this is for this system. This purple line that I have implanted here is the division between Sunday night and early Monday morning. So if you are west of this purple line, then the precipitation type that you see will be occurring mostly Sunday afternoon into Sunday night. East of that would be early Monday morning and then throughout the day on Monday. So the basic idea is north of this darker gray area, so from the lower Hudson Valley on north here, central Connecticut on northward, basically I-95 north and west in this region here, central Pennsylvania on north, and then in most of the Ohio Valley and most of Michigan, you're going to be cold enough for snow the entire time Sunday night, and then central and northern New England will also be cold enough for all snow from this event during the day on Monday. Now as for accumulations, anybody in this lighter gray area has a very good chance of seeing, well, I'm pretty sure we'll see at least 1 to 3 inches. Now, further south along the front, and as the warmer air comes in, where those two air masses not collide but run over each other, that's going to be closer to where the wintry mix is, further south. So I think central New England, central New York State, central PA, northern Ohio, and these areas might have to worry about a little more than 1 to 3 inches. So the further south you are in this gray area, the better chance you have of seeing more like 2 to 4, maybe 5 inches. Further north, the precipitation is going to be lighter, so I'm expecting only a coating to 1 inch or 2, maybe 3, up on the northern fringe of this gray area here for Sunday night into Monday. Boston, I would pit at 1 to 3 inches, maybe a little more, locally 4 from this event. Okay, so cold enough for all snow here. This is not a blockbuster event. Further south, across extreme southern New England, New York City, Long Island, Hudson Valley, central New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, northern Maryland, D.C. Would I throw D.C. on this? I think there's a pretty good chance that Washington, D.C. could be a part of the wintry mix Monday morning. Same thing for Baltimore. Philadelphia is definitely a part of it, and then spreading backward into southern Ohio and Indiana here. This region, so west of this, for Sunday night, you have to watch out for freezing rain. Now, my thinking is I don't think there's going to be sleet because the layer of warmer air is actually not too high up in the atmosphere. So if you do have raindrops falling down, I don't think they're going to refreeze in time to become ice pellets. I think your main concern in this darker gray area is going to be freezing rain, because in the lower to mid atmosphere you have a layer of warm air that's coming up the coast, and then at the surface temperatures are going to be below freezing. So what happens is, as the snow crystals fall from the upper atmosphere, they melt into raindrops, and then when they hit the surface, since the surface is below freezing, the water freezes, and that's what we call freezing rain. So the difference between sleet and freezing rain, I'll explain it right now. What happens with sleet is you have a layer of warmer air that's higher up, so snow crystals melt there, but then there's a layer of colder air in the lower atmosphere, so it refreezes into an ice pellet and then hits the ground. The difference here is there isn't a layer of colder air in the lower atmosphere. It's going to be at the surface where temperatures are below freezing. So you're going to have rain coming all the way down, but when it hits the surface, it's going to freeze. So you're really going to have to be concerned about freezing rain Sunday night west of this purple line in this darker gray area. And then Monday morning, I would put a very high concern out for freezing rain for New York City and Long Island Monday morning, Philadelphia Monday morning. Baltimore and D.C. isn't as big of a risk, but watch out for some pockets of freezing rain there as well. Especially into southern Pennsylvania here, watch out for freezing rain Sunday night. And then back into Indiana and Ohio Sunday night, watch out for some freezing rain. Maybe a little sleet as well, but freezing rain is my main concern. And I do think there could be minor ice accumulations with this Sunday night and Monday as well in these areas. So there could be hazardous travel Monday morning in these areas that I've just described here. And I wouldn't be surprised if over the weekend some freezing rain advisories started popping up. So my main concern here is freezing rain, but then by Monday afternoon, this entire area that's in the darker gray should be all rain. So that'll wash the ice away. And then I think we'll finish as a period of light snow or freezing rain Monday night. South of there, southern New Jersey, all the mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, blah, 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 all the way down the coast, you're all rain. Maybe some thunderstorms as well further south. So no worry about freezing rain down Virginia on south and Delaware on south. Okay, so that's the Sunday night into Monday system. Next system. That is going to be Wednesday night into Thursday. So this is the American model. So the models have been all over the place with this system, and it's really starting to make me mad, but we still are a week out, so I can't blame them. But over the last couple of model runs, the American model has come farther north with the storm, and the European model has come farther south. And I'll tell you why. There's a couple of keys to this system. First, let me just get to a location here that I like. Let's do Wednesday evening. Okay, so Wednesday evening, this is the piece of energy that I'm circling with my mouse right now that's going to form the storm over the Gulf states. Okay, so this piece of energy, I'll zoom in a little bit. This piece of energy that I'm circling with my mouse forms the storm. Up to the north, you have another piece of energy that's going to be dipping south and east, and depending on how much phasing happens, meaning depending on whether or not these two pieces, this northern piece and this southern piece, come together, that's one of the keys to where this southern piece of energy drives the storm. There's another key piece, though, and we'll get to that in a second. So we were right here. So let's go through Wednesday night and watch what happens. So pay attention to this piece, southern piece, and this northern piece. And watch what happens by Thursday morning. Okay, I just realized something. I'm on an old model run, but there still is a point to this. In the new model run, this northern piece of energy combines with this southern piece of energy all the way back where we are right now over the eastern coast. In this old run, these two pieces of energy come together later. So in the old one of the American model, your storm is all the way over here, further south. In the new run, it's actually way up further north, off the coast of the Delmarva. In the old run, as I'll point out here again, this is the piece of energy that forms a storm. This piece of energy came all the way from the north, and they're not combined. Thus, there is nothing to bring this storm up the coast. But in the new run, which we'll go to now, so I apologize for that. That was a bit of a mix-up on my part. I hope you're not confused as hell right now. Alright, so here we are. Wednesday evening. Here's the northern piece of energy that I pointed out in the previous run. That's going to combine with this southern piece of energy, which forms the storm. Now, let's compare. So now we're going to go into Thursday morning. See this? Check this out. In the old run, this piece of energy that forms the storm was completely separate from this northern piece of energy that came down from the south. In the new run of the American model, they're starting to combine all the way much further west than in the old run. Alright, so this is where we were. Let's keep going. We're on Thursday evening. And now, since this piece of energy that forms a storm is attached to the northern piece of energy, and this second piece of energy is attached to this short wave all the way back up here, thus, this whole trough pushes the storm not completely up the coast, but further north than in the previous run. This piece of energy is not together with this piece of energy in the previous run. Thus, in the previous run, it stays further south and goes out to sea. But in the new run, it comes further north because everything is attached, and the precipitation comes further north. So I'm noticing a northward trend in the American model. In the European model, we can go to it really quick right now. Alright, we're just going to go straight to Thursday evening. Actually, no, let's do Wednesday evening first. Okay, so here's the piece of energy that forms the storm. Here's the second piece of energy that will come down in phase with this piece of energy. Now, here's the big difference between the two models. Now we're on Thursday evening. Here's the piece of energy that formed the storm. Here's that northern piece of energy, that second piece that came from all the way back up from the northwest. Notice how this is not attached to the northern shortwave. In the GFS, this potent shortwave that's all the way up in Canada was attached to this other piece of energy, which was also attached to the piece of energy that formed the storm. So it's a 1, 2, 3 link in the American model. In the European model, 1 is not attached to 2 and 3, thus 2 and 3 do not come up the coast. Instead, 2 and 3 head out to sea. And that's the trend that I've been noticing with the European model, is that there's been a more southern trend with the storm. It stays further to the south and goes right out to sea because this northern shortwave piece of energy, I'll call it number 1, is not attached to bring 2 and 3 up the coast. In the previous runs, though, in the last couple of days, the European model was further north. So the European is going through a southern trend right now with this storm, and the American model is going through a northward trend. Alright, so for the sake of time, since this video is already 13 minutes, I'm not going to talk about the Canadian model. But first off, I hope that wasn't too confusing for you guys. I apologize if it was. Let's just go over the different scenarios of what could happen here. So this is scenario 1, and this is very unlikely. Scenario 1 is that the storm, everything is attached perfectly, and the storm comes right up the coast, and you get a significant snowstorm along the I-95 corridor heading up into central and northern New England, right along the coast. That's scenario 1. I don't think that is likely. I think it's very unlikely. And the other reason I say that is because, 1, I don't think all that energy is going to come together perfectly. None of the models are indicating that right now. But the other thing is, if you look at the, even on the American model, I'm going to show you right now, notice how the trough is positive. When you have a positive tilt, it's very hard for energy on the eastern end to come up to the northeast. This piece of energy number 1 will drive piece of energy number 3 up to the northeast, but because it's a positive tilt, it's not going to come right up the coast. So I think scenario 1 is very unlikely. I don't think this is going to be that big blockbuster storm that we're hoping for. Alright, scenario number 3, and I think right now this is probably the most likely scenario, this is supported by the European model, is that the storm stays suppressed to the south, it's weaker, and since all that energy doesn't come together perfectly, it goes right out to sea, and there's no impact on the northeast. Rather, you have a little bit of light snow and possibly some freezing rain and sleet across Virginia, central southern Virginia, southern West Virginia, southeastern Kentucky, most of Tennessee, and maybe even into northwestern North Carolina. I would throw Richmond, Virginia on this threat if scenario 2 pans out. I would throw D.C. on the northern end. I would not throw Baltimore and Philly on this. If the storm stays this far south, then you will be excluded from this. But watch out in this area. I would say you could get a couple of inches of snow, maybe an inch or two, and also glazing of ice if scenario 3 pans out, and that's what the European model supports right now. That's if the big Canada shortwave is separate from the other 2 pieces of energy that come together. Scenario number 3 is an in-between solution. And this is kind of what the American model is supporting right now. I mean, it has everything attached, but because of the positive tilt of the trough, it doesn't come right up the coast. Instead, it takes a northeasterly track, but not right up. And what could happen as a result of that is the mid-Atlantic would have a better chance of getting snow this way. It could be a light 1 to 3 to moderate 2, 4, 5-inch snowfall if this solution were to pan out. But again, I worry about the negative tilt of the trough. It's not negative, so it's going to be hard to pull moisture back. So I think this is going to need to come a little farther north to get a moderate snowfall across the mid-Atlantic. But this is scenario 3. So let's just go over this one more time. I think this significant snowstorm event is unlikely. I'm pretty close to scratching this off the table right now. Scenario 3, I think, is the most likely right now because that's what most of the models are supporting. They're supporting a weaker storm with the energy staying to the south and being suppressed out to sea. So I think this is the most likely scenario. However, I do think that there is still a decent chance that scenario 2 could happen. Scenario 3, excuse me, where you have an in-between solution of it not coming right up the coast but close enough where you would get a moderate snowfall for D.C., Philly, New York City, Long Island, maybe even Boston on the northern end, lower Hudson Valley, State College would be on the northwestern end of that, southern eastern Pennsylvania, maybe into northern Virginia and West Virginia as well. This would be scenario 2. 3, sorry, I keep screwing that up. Scenario 2 is the storm goes out to sea. Scenario 3 is this in-between solution. So I think it's between the storm going out to sea or coming just far north enough that we at least get a 1 to 3, maybe a 2 to 4 or a little more in this light gray area here. And possibly some wintry precip as well, you know, sleet and freezing rain. Because there is no definite source of cold air for this system, which is unfortunate. So that worries me a little bit as to whether or not we will have all snow. Okay, so that's the update right now. Thank you for watching. We will continue to update this throughout the next week. Remember that things could change. Maybe we will get a significant East Coast snowstorm. The European model has been fluctuating. It could come back north once again, so stay tuned.